Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Fiber of My Being podcast. I'm hoping it will be the first episode of many, but I've never really done this before, so I'm kind of winging it. Please bear with me. I know I'm going to have a lot of ums and ahs because I'm very nervous, and I'll also probably be looking down a lot because my show notes are on the table, and I am like glued to them so that I can remember what to say. It's so strange talking to a screen like I'm talking to people. I'm hoping there will be people on the other end of this. At the same time, I'm hoping not, because then you'll all see how weird and awkward I am. But I think that's enough of an introduction for now. Now I'll tell you a little bit about me. My name is Megan. I'm 25 years old. I live in Pennsylvania with my husband and our 3 cats, including our newly adopted 6-month-old kitten that we got last week, and we're already smitten with her. I'll try to have all of them on the podcast at some point, but the kitten is fascinated by yarn, so that could cause a problem. You can find me on Ravelry as Fiber of My Being, and I am a grad student, which makes me busy, so I don't know if I'll be able to have a regular schedule for this podcast at this point in time. I'm hoping to establish one soon, but bear with me. Being a grad student also makes me broke, so I am knitting on a budget. So I've gotten very good at working with budget yarns to make nice products. I do love a good luxury yarn, but yeah, I'm knitting with a lot of blends right now that some knitters might not like, but I see it as a way to knit as much as I can to improve my technique and experience more different types of knitting, so that when I do have the means to knit with nicer yarns, I can make sure that I'm knitting nice things with the nice yarn. So it also means that I won't be having much in the way of acquisitions every week, but I might still have a little bit. So we'll get to that later. When I'm not knitting or doing grad school, I'm usually reading. I'm doing a 40-book reading list right now, and I'm 2 books away from finishing, and it's only September, so I'm super excited about that. I also spend lots of time volunteering at our local animal shelter. I really, really like pets, and I would have a ton of them if it wouldn't make me an animal hoarder. So I get my kicks by going and walking the dogs there and playing with the cats, and it's really, really rewarding. And also, my husband and I spend a lot of time hiking because we like the outdoors, and Pennsylvania is a beautiful place for hiking. And we also spend a lot of time with Netflix, too. So, as for my reasons for podcasting, one is that I want to start forming more connections with the knitting community. We have a great knitting community where we moved to this past year, but I have been so busy that I keep missing their meetings, so I haven't actually been able to get involved yet. So I figured I've been watching some podcasts, and I figured I would try and get in on the online knitting community to start with. And the other reason I have is that I'm hoping this podcast will help me stay a little bit accountable, and I'll explain more about that when I get to the works in progress section of the podcast. So, now for my knitting history. I started seriously knitting back in 2013. To preface that, my mom taught me to knit and crochet when I was in high school, and I picked the worst yarn for a beginner to learn to knit with. I couldn't to this day, I still couldn't knit anything with it. I tried. So I finally figured out what to do with it. And I made a ton of little pom-poms to decorate my craft room with. So, but as you can see, it's just like, it's this acrylic, like eyelash yarn, and it was impossible to see my stitches, and when I made mistakes, it was impossible to rip them out. So you can see why I didn't get very into knitting when my mom first taught me, because I was working with this. So then I didn't do much for a few years, and then in college I picked it up a little bit, mostly crochet. I did some little crochet stuffed toys for my friends and stuff, and I did like a garter stitch scarf for my then boyfriend, now husband, but that was about it in college. So I didn't really start knitting seriously until 2013, when my newlywed husband and I moved to very, very rural Virginia for a year for an internship he had to do. We're talking, there were more cows than people in the village, and the people that were there, out of all of them, we significantly brought down the age population. The age demographic, I guess. So there wasn't a whole lot for me to do while we were there. There weren't many jobs. So I spent most of that year at home. A lot of time reading, of course, but I also spent a lot of time watching Netflix. I marathoned all of Doctor Who that year. Yeah, I'm a geek. And during that time, I decided to pick up crochet again, and a little bit of knitting, but mostly crochet that year. And then when I moved back when we moved back at the end of the internship, and I started grad classes, I started taking knitting with me to classes, which was great, because I'm a rather fidgety person, in case you couldn't tell from this video. So having knitting in class really helped me to focus, and my professors were great about letting me knit in class. So I really, really honed my skills in that year that we moved back, and caught the knitting bug full force, and I'm not going back. So I don't know why I didn't try knitting sooner, because I grew up loving to make those little, like, friendship bracelets out of embroidery thread. I loved any craft to do with string. So I don't know why I didn't think about exploring yarn crafts, but I'm glad I found them now. And as I'm seeing the timer go up on my phone here, just want to preface, I'm not sure if my phone is going to cut me off at a certain point, if it has a maximum recording limit, but if it does cut me off, I will just restart it and keep going, and I'll stitch these all together in editing. I'm really, really winging it here, so just bear with me. So, in addition to knitting, there are a few other crafts that might make occasional appearances in this podcast. As I said, I also crochet, not as much as I used to, but I do like to make lace out of crochet. I do some cross stitch every now and then. I have started spinning on a drop spindle, so I'm really excited about that. I did tortifleece this year as a personal challenge, and so I am looking forward to improving my spinning and sharing that on the podcast here. I've been doing a little bit of amateur yarn dyeing, mostly with food coloring. Nothing fancy at all, but I'm just having fun experimenting. I also do a little bit of needle felting, some basketry, some tatting, a tiny bit of sewing, mostly for mending clothing when it gets ripped or torn or anything, but I occasionally sew a lining for a bag or things like that. Also, I do a little bit of beading and jewelry making. Like I said, I got into yarn craft from friendship bracelets first, so those might show up occasionally. And then I just have a general love of crafty things. So I'm hoping to get into some basic weaving first on like a homemade loom. So we'll see if that makes an appearance in the podcast down the road. And as for goals for this podcast, my number one goal is that I'm hoping this podcast might help me be a less distracted knitter, because I have a lot of whips and not a lot of FOs. I'm hoping this podcast will help me with accountability to keep chugging on with each of my projects and not letting them sit on the needles for too long, because I have a serious case of cast-on-itis. Because I like to try so many new techniques, and I love the abundance of patterns there are, and I just can't stop. I can't stop to finish one before I start the other. So you'll see when I get to the works in progress, I have a lot. I watch some podcasters who say they're mostly monogamous knitters, and I don't know how they do it. I would go crazy not working on at least 10 projects at a time. So, in addition to that, I am hoping that this podcast will help me focus on what kinds of things I want to knit. For one thing, I want to work on knitting some people-specific gifts for the people in my life that I want to knit for. I haven't been too good about that. One year I knit everybody something for Christmas, and then I think I got kind of burned out. So I'd like to get back into that. I'm also hoping to enter some of my knitting and crochet into a local competition next year, so I'm already working on knitting for that a bit, but I'm hoping to keep going with that on this podcast. I'm also looking to explore new techniques and yarns and patterns and things on this podcast. So if you have any suggestions for things I should check out, please let me know. And like I said, I'm looking to form connections with the online knitting community and be able to meet new people through this podcast and share a love of knitting and crafts. So I think that's about it for this section of the podcast. And now, how about we get to some knitting? So the first FO I have this week I'm wearing. This is the Lionberry Shawl by Narniel of Endor on Ravelry. I knit it out of Michael's Loops and Thread brand wool-like yarn, which is 100% acrylic yarn. This is where the budget knitting comes in. It's 100% acrylic, it's fingering weight sock yarn, but it doesn't feel like acrylic. It feels pretty nice. It knits really nice. The balls come with a lot of yardage. I mean, here, I'll show you. This is one of the balls of yarn, and it's got maybe 700 or 800 yards, I don't remember, of fingering weight yarn in this ball, so I can get a lot of mileage out of this, and it only costs a couple bucks per ball. So you'll see a lot of this wool-like showing up because I'm really enjoying knitting with it. So this is knit out of that wool-like yarn. It's knit on 3.75 millimeter needles and also 5 millimeter needles for the bind off, I believe. And I will take it off. Oh no, I have a couple of ends to sew in, so I guess it's not technically an FO, but I will show it to you here. I don't know if you can see it. It's got these lovely bands of patterning, some eyelets, some seed stitch. I really like this chevron pattern here. I don't know if you can see that very well. But there's a chevron and then some lace right there. And then a few bands of ribbing and eyelet lace, and ending with a little picot type bind off. So I really like this. It turned out, I don't know if it was supposed to be a shawlette or not, but mine kind of turned out more as a shawlette. Might be because with the acrylic it didn't block out as well as a wool yarn might have. But I really like it. It's not the first shawl I've ever knit, but it's the first one I've ever successfully finished. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. So, my next FO, this is one of the ones that I'm knitting for the local competition. So this is the Elfin Hat by Purl Soho on Ravelry. So I'll show you it this way first. It's a little like pixie style hat. This is in the baby size, and I knitted the yellow variation. There are different variations with, like, some have the band of color in the middle, some have a larger like tip on the hat, various. It's a really nice pattern, and it's done in twined knitting, which means after every single stitch you twist the yarns with each other. So it actually makes a really lovely fabric on the inside too. It's a reversible pattern, so you can wear it like this, or you can flip it inside out and wear it with the ribbing sort of pattern on the outside like that. And so I really like this. I think it's adorable. I think this would be very popular for, like, those newborn photo shoots that people do. That's why I knit it, because I thought it was really, really cute. So it's a great pattern. Purl Soho on Ravelry. They have an adult version too, but I wanted to keep it simple to start. So yeah. My next work in progress, I'm super excited about this one. This is the Wind and Sea Hat by Christy Porter on Ravelry. It's from the book Knitting in the Sun, but this pattern from that book is available free on Ravelry. And so it's a nice, beautiful sun hat. It's got some eyelet spirals going down it, but my yarn that I chose makes it a little hard to see that. And this is knit in cotton worsted weight yarn. I can't remember which brand exactly. It's one of the major brands of cotton yarn, like Sugar and Cream or Peaches and Cream, Lily, one of those, your typical cotton yarns. And this I hand dyed with a tie-dye kit. My little sister was up to visit us one week, and she brought tie-dye. And what happened was she had just little bits of leftovers from all the different colors that she used, and so I took them and just dotted them all over this yarn. I call it my funfetti yarn. I don't know if you can see all the little delightful spots of color there, but so I just saw this yarn when it came out after I rinsed it, and I just thought that would make an awesome hat. And I've been meaning to knit this hat, and so it just came together perfectly. And this hat has it has wire in the brim to stiffen the brim, obviously, and then it also has a little bit of elastic in the crown to help fit it to your head a little bit. Although I don't think that I did my elastic quite tight enough, because my hat was trying to blow off my head one day when I wore this out, so I might be adjusting that a little. But I'm really, really happy with the way this turned out. So that's my other FO. Actually, it's not my only other FO. I have several others. So when I was talking about the first shawl that I successfully finished, this is what I meant. I have this other shawl that I knit almost 2 years ago, I think. I finished it. But I have still not been able to figure out how to block it properly. This is the Lady Lismore shawl, and it's by Eleanor King on Ravelry. I really, really love this pattern. It's a really great pattern. It's done in the wool-like sock yarn, the acrylic fingering weight sock yarn, and it's knit on 4mm needles. But I don't know if I knit it wrong, but there's this huge like bulge at the top. It's supposed to be a crescent shawl, and it almost came out like a triangle. And so I've been having trouble blocking it because of that, and also because it's an acrylic yarn, I have to steam block it. So, and my iron has been just unruly. My iron is just not working anymore, so I haven't been able to get it to steam. And so even though I've blocked this like 4 times already, it just keeps springing back. These are supposed to be the end here. It's supposed to be like actual spikes of knitting at the end, but every single time it just springs back into this weird ruffly edge instead of these lovely spikes like it's supposed to be. Lovely little spikes. But anyway, I'm hoping I can block this properly soon. But until then, I can at least show you the pattern. So this has bands of these lovely... This features multiple wrap stitches, which I was really excited to learn. And so it has a band of these lovely like twisted wraps that almost look like, if you're familiar with broomstick crochet, it's twisted just like broomstick crochet is. You can't see the purple twists as well, but here with the yellow one, you can see it fairly well. And then here was a band of elongated stitches to form this subtle little wave. And then a band of like a drop stitch wave at the bottom for a more pronounced wave. And then there's more bands of those twisted broomstick-like stitches. So I'm really happy with the way the colors came out and the way the stitches came out. I just don't know how to block this properly. So hopefully this will be a more finished object the next time you see it. But that's that for now. Next, I call this a finished object, but it's actually about 18. This isn't exactly a finished object, but there are about 18 of them. It's not just one. And that is these crocheted snowflake ornaments. I can show you a couple of them here. They are from, all of these patterns are from snowcatcherphotos.com. It's a blog, and that link will take you to the blog's directory where there are pictures of all of the snowflakes that I think it's she has worked up, and she makes beautiful snowflakes. So I can't even tell you what all of these are because I don't remember, but just look at some of those snowflakes. I've got a couple 2-color ones here, and these are mostly finished because I need to pin them out and starch them so that they don't just crumple back into little heaps. But I've got about 18 snowflakes, and most of them have the ends sewn in, but as you saw, there's a couple I missed. So I'm hoping to work on pinning these out because it's starting to get close to the winter season, and I really like these as ornaments and things. So, and I'm keeping all of those in my lovely wire basket. This is hairpin crochet lace, and I don't remember where I got this pattern from, but I will try and find that and talk about it next week when I hopefully have this basket full of finished snowflakes instead of crumply, weird-looking ones. But, so that's a mostly finished object, just gotta do the blocking. Now I'll move on to a couple, oh, I have one more mostly finished object. This is a hat that I worked up out of Patton's. I don't know if this is backwards or not. It is Patton's Classic Wool Roving. It's this lovely, like, bulky single ply yarn. And this is in the cherry colorway. I don't know. It looks a little more pink than what it's showing in the picture here. But I had been eyeing up this yarn at the craft store for months. Every time I saw it, I was just drawn to this color. So I finally treated myself to a ball of it, and I decided to knit this hat with it. This is the Pincholin hat. Pincholin? I don't know how to pronounce it. It is by Jocelyn Tunney on Ravelry, and it's this lovely, like, bias knitting swirl. So, I don't know if you can see the pattern there. It was meant to be a slouchy hat, but I did not. I knit the amount of rows that it called for me to knit, and it just did not turn out very slouchy. So I should have kept going. But I don't hate the way it turned out. It's kind of a nice beanie, which is more what I usually wear. And I still need to put a pom-pom on top, but I do not like making pom-poms, so that might take a while for me to get up the energy to do that. And then I also think I chose the wrong cast on for it, so I'm looking to try and kind of even out the cast on a little bit, because it's really, really loose. But other than that, I'm really happy with how this hat turned out, and I'm glad I still have a little bit left over that I might be able to do something else with this yarn that I love so much. So that's my other mostly finished object. Now as far as half objects go, I have this is almost a 3/4 object. This is the Arched Gusset Mitten by Purl Soho on Ravelry. The same blog that did that Elfin Hat. And I love these mittens. As a distracted knitter, I don't normally knit the same pattern more than once, but I have knit so many pairs of these mittens for family and friends and myself, and I just really love them. This one's a little bit big for my hand because this is a pair for my husband. It's knit in the large size, but I don't know if you can see, but the gusset, instead of a triangle gusset or an afterthought thumb or anything like that, the gusset involves increasing along the line of your thumb, which makes them so comfortable to wear. So I really, really love these mittens. And I actually adapted the pattern a little bit, because in the original pattern, it was just knit with stockinette the whole way, but I didn't really like how that felt around my wrist. So, and my husband didn't really like it either. So I adapted it and added a 2x2 rib, which makes it a lot more comfortable. So I've got one of those finished, and I just transferred the thumb stitches to a stitch holder for the other one. So hopefully I'll be done with this by next week. This is a great travel project for me. And I had already knit up a pair for myself last winter, and so now I'm getting around to knitting for my husband. So he's excited about this. And these are knit in Patton's Classic Wool, the worsted weight, and this colorway is light gray marl, and I just love that color. So, and my husband loves it too. He picked it out. So, hoping to have those done soon. And I knit these on 3.5 millimeter needles with 3.25 millimeter for the ribbing to keep it a little bit tighter. And then my other half object looks really, really bad right now because it's kind of a mostly half object. I need to do finishing on it. And it is this slipper. It's called the Tutu slipper. It's by Christine Griffin Grimes from the book French Girl Knits Accessories, which is a lovely book. I encourage you to check it out. And this is like a ballet type flat. You can't really tell right now, but this band will go around the top like that and form a lovely little ballet flat. This is almost done. I just need to get a ribbon to weave through the eyelets here, and I need to get a button to attach the strap to. But I just cast this off a couple days ago, and this is also knit in wool-like sock on 2mm and 2.75mm needles. So yeah, and I'm just, this was knit on magic loop, which I don't normally do magic loop. I actually really like double pointed needles, but with this pattern, magic loop just made a lot of sense. So I'm hoping to try out some more magic loop knitting soon. But I haven't cast on for the second one yet because I have a serious problem with second sock syndrome, and this is basically a sock, so I'm hoping that I will cast on with this soon. But it's been so long since I cast on with the Judy's Magic Cast On that I can't remember how to do it because I normally knit cuff down. So I'm hoping to look that up again this week and start on the second of these slippers. And then my other mostly finished object is actually also a call for help. If anyone knows anything about the technique that might help me to finish this, please let me know because I am just struggling. This is a commission for a friend of a friend who wanted me to recreate a family heirloom stocking for a new baby. And so I've finished the stocking. It's meant to be Santa's face, but it looks really, really creepy right now because Santa's face is meant to have a beard and a pom-pom, but I'll get to that at the end. But Santa's face is meant to have a beard, and I cannot for the life of me figure out how to do the beard because I'm knitting off of just pictures of this stocking. So in the pictures, it looked almost like the beard was like latch hooked on or crochet hooked on, but when I actually tried to do that, the knots of the yarn were just too big to fit enough of the fringe that the beard was fluffy enough, because it was a really fluffy beard. And when I put all the knots in before, it just looked so flabby. So I'm not really sure if there's any other techniques to secure the fringe for the beard. So if you know of anything that might help me to secure fringe to this beard so that Santa doesn't look creepy anymore, please let me know. But otherwise, this is a mostly finished object, and I designed this myself based on the pictures that I was given. So I worked his face in intarsia, and up here was stranded, and just your typical heel flap and gusset for the stocking. And I can't remember what type of toe I did here. I don't knit socks very often because of the second sock syndrome that I am really bad with. So, but this was not so bad because I only had to knit the one. But yeah, so that's a mostly finished object, and if you know anything about how I might be able to finish this, please let me know, because I want to get this done before Christmas this year, because she asked me after Christmas last year. So it's about time I get this done. Okay, So I believe that's all of the finished objects and half objects, and mostly finished objects. So now is the time when I get to the works in progress, and now you'll see just how crazy a case of cast-on-itis I have. So let me start with the, I'm in my craft room where one of our cats currently lives, and she is just lounging on the bed. I don't know if you can see her. There, I'll get out of the way. She's just like out on the bed. That is Mary, and she's a 9-year-old tuxedo kitty, and we love her so much. She's a little bit shy, but she's very, very vocal, and she loves cuddles. And I just glanced back and saw her just out on the bed. She's so cute. Okay, so now for works in progress. So my first work in progress here is this hat. It looks like such a normal hat, right? It actually looks more like a scarf, but I promise you, this is a hat. It's just a strip of like mistake ribbing, which is making it really, really easy to knit. But in the end, it's going to turn into a, let's see if I can twist it this way, into a turban style hat. It'll get seamed up and it'll look a lot better than this when I'm done, I'm hoping. But it's a turban style hat. The pattern is Turban Twist Hat by Bernat Design Studios on Ravelry. So it's a pretty simple pattern. Like I said, it's just this band of ribbing, and then it'll get seamed up into the proper shape when I'm done. And this is knit with Patton's worsted wool. And this is actually in a colorway that I dyed using Easter egg dyes, because I really like this yellow color, but it's very hard to find commercial wool yarn in like your big box craft stores that comes in this yellow color. It's all either way more obnoxious or way more faded, and so I just tried my hand at Easter egg dyeing, and this is how it came out. Excuse me. And I'm so excited about the way this yarn looks, and I'm excited to see how the hat turns out. So I'm almost at the required length for this hat. I was moving really, really slowly because I was working on these like monstrous aluminum needles that I started out knitting on, but they take so much effort to knit with. And I finally realized that I got this super tiny little set of double pointed needles, and so I switched over to this, and then I just started flying through this project. I put some point protectors on the ends so the stitches don't slide off, but I'm hoping to at least have it bound off by next week. If not, seamed up too. It would be great if it was seamed up. I'm really excited about this hat for fall because that just looks like a great fall color. So that's my first work in progress. Many more to come. So my second one, I'm really, really excited about this, is a sweater. I've never knit, this is my first adult sweater. I knit a baby sweater a few months back just to practice the techniques of sweater knitting because it's a lot less time and energy and yarn to knit a baby sweater than it is to knit an adult sweater. But now I am attempting this adult sweater. I've got the armholes now. There's little bits of string everywhere, sorry. The armholes now, and I'm working my way down the back now. And it's got this lovely asymmetrical leaf lace pattern on the side. It's also got the same pattern along the sleeves and along the front bands, where there will be a ribbing band added on at the end. So this is like, this cardigan is meant to be worn open. So there's not really going to be a button band. It's just going to be a little band of ribbing. And it is going to be with cap sleeves. So all I really need to do is knit the ribbing onto the sleeves then. And this is knit with, again, Wool-like, the acrylic sock yarn from Michaels, on 3.75 millimeter needles. And this pattern is designed by Cheryl Beckeridge, and it's found in the Love of Knitting magazine from September 2014. I bought it when I was first starting to really get into knitting again, and most of the patterns in there were like dream knitting patterns, but now I'm actually getting like skilled enough to start knitting some of them. So I'm super excited about this. I've been working on this sweater actually for months because it actually sat for several months unknit. But now that I got past the armholes, it's a much quicker knit because it's like an 8-row repeat and it's pretty easy. But it is sock yarn, so it's still taking a long time. So I'm hoping, I'm sure I'm not going to be done with this by the next podcast, but I'm hoping that I'll have some progress. Number 2. So now for work in progress number 3. This is a scarf, and I'm grabbing the book so that I can show you a picture of the pattern because this scarf is gorgeous. This is the Baby's Breath scarf. It's hard to see all the detail in there, but I'll show you some of it close up on the scarf I'm knitting. And this is from the book Rustic Modern Knits by Yumiko Alexander. I think this is probably all backwards, but sorry about that. And this is being knit in Drops lace yarn. This was one of my treat buys. This is 70% alpaca, 30% silk. Just feels so good. I got a couple balls of this. I don't really know the colorway because I don't remember what colorway it was listed as online, but the color number is 7120. And so here's the actual scarf. I still have a long way to go because it's a lace yarn, but down near one end of the scarf is this lovely panel of lace with almost noop-like stitches on it too. I think that's how you say that. I might be butchering everything because I really haven't been involved in many actual knitting communities, so I don't know how to pronounce things. Please excuse me. But yeah, it's got these lovely little X's in lace and in noop stitches, if you can see there. I'm really bad at this, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then it's also got these really cool bands of this daisy chain pattern, which I really, really love. And so there are bands of that and then bands of like wider sections. So the scarf kind of bubbles out and then comes back together again. It's got a little ruffly edge. And so I'm maybe almost halfway done with this scarf. But it's taking a while because it's lace. So, but I'm so excited for this to be done. I've never knit with lace yarn before, except for, like, crochet thread, but I haven't really knit with that much, so yeah, I'm super excited about that scarf. Now for the 4th work in progress. This is another little baby sweater. I'm knitting up another one. This is probably going to be for the knitting competition. So yeah, it's a simple cardigan. This is the Luna Poppy baby cardigan. I believe it's a fairly new pattern. It's done by Jay Weilman of Distant Hills on Ravelry, and who just had a new granddaughter born and named this after her and designed this for her. So I've gotten past the armholes now, and I'm knitting the A-line version, so it's taking a little longer because there's continuous increases in it, and the increases are like this lovely little eyelet pattern to add a little interest to it. But it's just a pretty basic baby cardigan. This is knit with Bernat baby yarn, DK weight, on 4mm needles. And so I'm hoping that I don't run out of yarn before I finish it. Otherwise, I might have to go run out to the store and hope they still have the same color that I bought 3 years ago. But yeah, I'm hoping it turns out well. If not, I'll rip it back and I'll make a smaller size. So that is project number 4. I'm just winding up all of the yarn. A lot of these things get stored in random bags of mine, and they get all tangled up, so it takes me a while to get them wound up again. Oh, sorry. You got a nice shot there of my knitting needle holders and crochet hook holders. Just a couple cups. I'm recording on my phone, and I had to pull one of my next whips out, and it just knocked it over. So sorry about that. So this is my next whip. This is a crochet whip, and it's really, really long. This is the Globetrotter shawl. It's a pattern put out by Patterns on Ravelry. It's free. This is also knit in wool-like sock yarn, and it's done on a 3.75mm hook. And this is, I believe it's pronounced Bruges lace. It's a crochet tape that gets joined as you go to form this wavy pattern, or you can form lots of other patterns with it, but I went with the simple wavy pattern for now. And then there's going to be these stripes of brown and white in between, and then I've got another strip of the Bruges lace to attach to the other side. And then there will be a fringe on the end with all the different colors. And so I'm really excited about that. It looks like a really, really fun shawl to make. But I'm making really, really slow progress on it because I don't crochet as fast as I used to. And crocheting tends to hurt my hands more. So I work rather slowly. But I am so sorry. Let me just move these other projects out of the way. Bear with me. So that's my 5th whip. Let's charge on, shall we? So my next whip is a really, really tiny whip right now, but it won't get very big either. This is the Vincent Cuff by Megan Wood on Ravelry. As you can see, it's knitting with beads. These are seed beads, and it doesn't really look like much of anything right now because I haven't gotten very far into it, because it took me so darn long to string all of the beads in the order that it calls for them to be knit with. But I'm really excited about the finished product, so it was worth it. This is a just simple cuff bracelet, but it turns out looking, I don't know if you can see that picture, it turns out looking like Van Gogh's Starry Night, which I just love that idea. So there's like a chart here. This is a free pattern on Ravelry as well. And so I'm making really, really slow progress because this is knit with size 10 crochet thread and seed beads on, I think these are 1.25mm needles. They're like the teeny tiny sock set of needles. So it's taking me forever to knit. But I'm really excited about that. Next is a crochet project. technically Tunisian crochet. This is the beginnings of my Natalie shrug. It's by Megan Granholm from the book Simply Crochet, 25 Stylish Designs for Every Day. It's Tunisian crochet, so it's done on a hook that I dropped. Done on this long Afghan hook, and it's worked in griddle stitch. And this is the back piece, and then I need to make the arm pieces separately, and then join them together and do a little border. So this has been a really good traveling project as well. We were just traveling for my hometown's fair this week, and my husband's homecoming was really, really early this year, but we were traveling this weekend for that, so I took that along and got a lot of progress done. And that is also knit with wool-like sock yarn. I hope you're seeing a trend. I have a lot of that yarn, and I find it very, very useful to knit with. So that is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 whips now. Now to the other side of the table. My next whip is called the Fraulein scarf. It is designed by Pam Powers, and it is from this book, Knitted Scarves, Dress to Impress Knitted Scarves. And I love this book. I have knit so many of the scarves from this book. There's very few that I haven't knit. Fraulein is one of them, because I was having trouble finding the necessary yarn for it, because it calls for a boucle. I think that's how you pronounce it. But anyway, so I'll show you how it's meant to look. It turns into this lovely like long scarf that you can tie around your neck. So I'll show you what I've got done on it so far. This is knit with Loops and Threads Woolette yarn. They were on clearance with this, and so I bought a couple balls of this golden color, and yeah, I was super excited to see it on clearance, because I've been looking for a boucle yarn like this so I could knit this scarf. So here's what I have so far. I've got 1/2 of the middle section knit, and this is knit on let me see here. It's knit on 4.5 millimeter, 5.5 millimeter, and 8 millimeter needles to achieve this kind of ruching effect that's in the main part of the scarf here. And then for the ties, I'm knitting with just Red Heart Super Saver. So, and it'll be this lovely, like, lacy pattern, but I haven't gotten very far on the ties right now. So I'm hoping to get a little further on that. And then there's a provisional cast on, and then I'll have to knit the other side of the scarf then. So I'm hoping to get more done on that soon, just as I'm hoping to get more done on all of these projects, and you can see how well that's going to work out for me in 1 week, or however long it takes me to upload the next podcast. So, next is a hat, which, if it turns out the right size, I'm going to give this to my husband, because he really likes these colors. And it is the Brioche Cable Cap by Marilyn Blacketer on Ravelry. This is knit in Lion Brand's Woolies worsted yarn. I know that I have a lot of Michael's wool-like yarn, but what you can't tell is that I also have a lot of this Woolies. I like it a lot. It's a wool acrylic blend. I think it's 80% acrylic, 20% wool. It feels really, really nice. It's also machine washable, which is nice. Practicality is important to me. And it just comes in so many fun colors. So I've really loved working with Woolies yarn. And this hat is knit in brioche, 2-color brioche. So you can see the other side here. This is knit on 5 millimeter needles, I believe, or 3.5 millimeter. Or 3.75 millimeter. I'm sorry. I'm not very good at remembering what needles I'm knitting on, so I'm hoping this will also help me to improve with my accuracy about needles and yarn that I'm using. So this is knit in the avocado and the natural colors. And I've kind of created my own pattern because I underestimated how hard it would be to count rows with the brioche stitch, and so my cables started getting smaller and smaller as I went. And I didn't realize it until it was too late for me to feel like I could rip it back. So I made it intentional, and I started decreasing by a couple rows for every cable. So I'm kind of making a descending cable hat now, and I think it still looks great. It just, accidents happen sometimes, but I'm really excited about this hat. It's so squishy and so soft. But it's also taking a long time because every row is really 2 rows with brioche in the round. So hopefully I'll get more done on that soon. Next is this really, really time-consuming crochet project. It's mostly done. It's called the Threads and Beads Infinity Scarf. It's from the blog Speckless, and it's crocheted in size 10 crochet thread with a 5 millimeter hook. Maybe not 5 millimeter. I was using a 2 millimeter for some reason. I don't know why. I don't track these things very well. I need to work on that. But so this is, like I said, it's called the Threads and Beads Infinity Scarf. So I've got the thread here, and then I'm almost done with the edging. I gotta block it out, of course, but I'm almost done with the edging. And then the beads part will come in by stringing beads through these gaps in the edging. So, but I don't have the beads for it yet, so I will hopefully finish this once I have those beads. But I'm looking to at least finish the rest of the edging soon because this bottom part here is not finished yet. But it's mostly there. I thought I finished this during my sister-in-law's college graduation, but then I realized I made a mistake the whole way around and I had to rip out. So I haven't quite, gotten over the ripping out enough to pick it up and work on it again. Next, this is barely a whip at all, but I thought I'd mention it so I can try and work on it a bit more. This little tiny thing is a whale. Can you tell? This is the Hazel the Humpback Whale pattern by Beck Britton on Ravelry. The pattern's written for DK weight, but I sized it down to fingering weight, and I'm using wool-like sock yarn in navy and gray. So it's a really, really detailed stuffed whale pattern. I saw Nicole from the Hugh Loco podcast was working on this in one of her earliest episodes, and I just thought that looked really cool. So I picked it up, and I'm hoping to enter that into the knitting competition as well. But I have to work on it first. Next up is... Hi, sorry to keep you in suspense. I reached the maximum recording limit for one video. So next up in my works in progress is a sock, and this looks really, really funky on the needles. But this is the, I believe it's pronounced bohus, the Swedish knitting style, and the bohus style knee highs by Chrissy Gardner from the book Color Style, which is a collection of lots of different knitters' patterns. And so it has this lovely band It's hard to see all the texture and the color. But this lovely band of boho style knitting there, with pearl ridges to help bring out some of the color. And then the rest of the sock is done, the rest of the leg is done in ribbing. And these are knee-high socks, so they're taking a very long time to knit the leg. And it looks really, really small at the bottom, but it's done in a 2x2 rib, and so it's so stretchy, so I'm hoping it'll fit. These are knit on 2.25 millimeter needles, and they're done in wool-like sock yarn, again. I'm knitting them, as you can see, one at a time, cuff down, on double-pointed needles, which is my usual method of knitting socks, but I'm looking to learn 2 at a time socks, because I think that'll help with my finishing socks sort of dilemma. So that is another one of my works in progress. I'm almost done. Next up is another shawl. This is done in DK weight yarn, and it got all tangled up in itself. Sorry about that. This is done in DK weight. This is actually, I'm knitting it in Bernat Baby DK weight yarn again, because I got a lot of that for a Fair Isle baby hat I knit last year, and so I only used a little bit of each of the yarns, so I have a lot left over. And this is called the Heather Shawl by Suzanne Vishk. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I'm sorry, on Ravelry. And unfortunately, when I went back to look for the information, I saw that this pattern is no longer available currently. So I think she might be working on the pattern a little bit, because it is a little confusing. I haven't made much progress because I've had to do so much deciphering of the chart. So hopefully she's working on improving it a little, making it easier to understand, and then hopefully it'll come back onto Ravelry again. This is a Faroese style shawl, although when I was looking into it, it sounds like it's not technically Faroese, because they're usually, from what I read, they're usually knit from the bottom up, and this is knit from the top down. But it's got the center panel like Faroese shawls normally do, and it's got the kind of triangle shaping on either side for the wings, and it's even got a little bit of the bulges that are characteristic of Faroese shawls to help hold it on your shoulders. So I'm excited to see how this turns out then, but I probably will be making rather slow progress on this because the pattern is so confusing. So that's that. And then, let's see here. Okay, next is a project that I just cast on a couple days ago, and I probably shouldn't have because I already knew I had too many projects, but I just really, really wanted to. And this is the Vacation Project Bag. It's a pattern by Marley Bird, and it's published in that same magazine, the Love of Knitting magazine, summer 2014. And I can actually show you while I'm at it a picture of that sweater that I'm knitting. So, covering up the pattern, of course. That's like the band on the back of the willow sweater cardigan thing. But so the Vacation Project Bag is the other project I'm working on. It's knit, again, in wool-like sock yarn, the navy color right now, but it's going to be striped with white once I get to it. But I'm just starting on the bottom of the bag now, so hoping to keep working on that. And it's knit on 3.75 millimeter needles, I believe. Yeah. So that's that. And then just a couple more. And one I can't actually show you a whole lot or tell you a whole lot yet. So almost done. Oh no, where did that come from? I think I dropped a needle somewhere. I think that's right. Alright, so my next project is not really based on a pattern. It's more based on an idea that my husband showed me from, I think he saw it on Facebook, but I think it originated from Ravelry. And it's a crochet project. It's a blanket. So I'll step back to hold it up and show you then. My husband is a bit of a weather nerd. If he wasn't in his current profession, he probably would have been a weatherman, a meteorologist, because he really likes studying weather. So he saw this blanket where you crochet one row a day based on the temperature of that day. And so we drafted up our own temperature scale that would give us a good distribution based on the climate that we live in. And so I've been trying to knit one row a day of this massive, massive blanket. So this is the summer, and then all the way back to January. So I'm putting a row of black in between each of the months so that you can, like, if you want to, you can look at this blanket and look up a particular date and see what sort of day it was. So I have a ton of ends to weave in. That is going to be awful. But also I have a ton of work to do because my last crocheted row was for August 15th. So I'm really, really behind. I think it's because I don't want to crochet a huge blanket in my lap because it's so hot. So I've been catching up with this in fits and starts, but it's still pretty massive. So when I'm done with this, I think I will outline it in a black border and just kind of generally finish it off. But don't expect this to be done until at least the end of 2016 because it's the temperatures of the whole year. So that is my last major work in progress. There's one more that I will tell you a little bit about just so that I have some pressure to keep working on it. I am trying to design my first knit pattern. So I went out, oh, and by the way, the blanket, this is just done in Red Heart because I needed large quantities and bright colors, and so we're doing Red Heart for this. Which leads me to, for this next project, I'm also, especially because I'm designing it and I don't know how it'll go, I'm working with Red Heart again. I just went out, this was like my one acquisition for the week. I just went out and bought, excuse me, while I reach, I just went out and bought a couple balls of Red Heart to coordinate all together, so I can show you the colors I'm working with at least. All of these lovely turquoise colors. I love these colors so much. So I've got this minty color, and then jade, and then this is also Red Heart with Love metallic, and it's teal with lovely little teal flecks of glittery, sparkly stuff. So this is only just started as a work in progress. I did like the first repeat of the pattern. I'm debating whether I should show you or not. Maybe I'll just let you glimpse a little bit. This is what I'm working on. So that's about all I'll show you right now because I don't want to mention too much about this pattern in case I actually can't figure out how to make this work. And then you're disappointed because I didn't make the pattern that I said I was going to make. But I'm hoping to keep working on that. I'm really, really excited about the pattern idea. So that's that. So, 16 projects later, that's all my works in progress right now. Well, not even all, but all of the ones I felt like I should actually show you because others are just like, I don't know if I'm going to keep them or frog them or what. So, So next, I will share my couple of spinning works in progress too, because I'd like to try and include spinning as well. So let me just reach over here and grab them. Alright, so I am spinning on drop spindles. I have 2 drop spindles currently, so I can spin 2 projects at a time. I haven't done a lot of spinning lately because I did a personal challenge to spin for every day of the Tour de France. I didn't join any official Tour de Fleece program or group or anything, but I just made a personal challenge to spin every day. And I did. I did it. And I produced a lot of great yarn. Great by my standards. I'm a beginner, so. But I'll try to show you some of the yarns I produced in a later podcast. But so I kind of got a little burned out from spinning every day for like the whole month. So I haven't spun in a while, but I do have 2 projects going that I occasionally work on. So I'll show you my favorite one first. Oh no, I just broke the fiber. Oh well. This is, actually, I've got a lot of this fiber spun up right now. This is on my first ever drop spindle. I got it from a little kit sold by one of our Pennsylvania farmers who sells fiber and things like that, and also made up these lovely little kits for our farm show. And so I've always wanted to try spinning, so I bought a kit and I learned, and my first yarn was awful. But I'm glad that I kept trying because now I'm actually getting to a fairly thin, fine yarn that doesn't have all the lumps and bumps and everything. So, and this is a lovely fiber. It's this Gotland wool. I got it from a seller on Etsy. I don't remember who. I ordered a lot of fiber during Tour de Fleece because I burned through my stash really quick. But this wool is just amazing. It's not super soft because I guess Scotland is not so much a next to skin yarn, but it's just a dream to spin with because the fibers are so wonderful. They're so long and so easy to draft. So I'm really enjoying spinning with this. And I'm hoping to try. I haven't done much in the way of plying. I've done a little bit of 2-plying and a little bit of Navajo plying. So I'm hoping to try and make this into maybe a 4-ply yarn so I can experiment with plying twice. So that's that. And then this other one, whereas I love this fiber, I hate this fiber. It maybe is not the best fiber for a relatively new spinner to spin. This is sea cell top. I have to preface this by saying it's a great fiber for what it is. The seller gave me a great quality fiber. I just think it was the wrong choice for me to spin with at this point in time. But this is, I got this from Laughing Lamb Fibers, an Etsy seller, and it's sea cell top. I ordered like 3 different things from this seller. I got some of the sea cell top here, and I also got some bamboo top, and I also got some tussa silk, which is wonderful. But I decided to try and spin this sea cell top for Tour de Fleece. And several months later, I still have the same amount spun as what I did before because it just breaks at the slightest little, like, breath of air. And it's just been very, very hard to work with. So I would hate to wind all this off to, like, I want to finish spinning it, but right now it's just taking up my space on my drop spindle, and this is a lovely drop spindle. I don't know, you can't really see with the light, but this, oh, there we go, you can almost see. There we go. This is a blue sandstone whirl. I got this from the seller Tina's Angoras, based in Washington, I think, on Etsy. And she sells lovely handcrafted spindles with hand-turned wood and these lovely stone whorls of there's so many beautiful different types of whorls of all different colors on there. And you can even, I saw she had somebody request a specific type of stone, and she commissioned that specially for them. So you can kind of customize a little bit too. And this just has lovely, you can hardly see it, but there's lovely little glittery bits in this stone. It looks like the night sky. And I love it so much. And it's a bit tinier than my other spindle, but it's kind of nice to be able to spin smaller quantities of fiber. So, and this seller, Tina Zangora's, I would order from her again and again because I also got a rosewood nose to pin from her to spin up center pole balls. I don't have a ball winder yet, so this is what I currently use to spin up my center pole balls. I just invested in a Swift, an umbrella Swift, cheap plastic thing, because I'm broke. But the nose to pin works really well for winding off of that. So I'm really, really happy with the products she sells. So, excuse the crinkling. Just got to close up the fiber. So that's my 2 current spinning projects. I'm hoping I can keep working on those a bit. But this wool, I love this Scotland. Anyway, okay. So, as for acquisitions, I don't have any this week except for that red heart I showed you for my super secret project. And I won't always be having acquisitions because, like I said, 1, I'm a broke grad student, and 2, I have a lot of yarn already, and so I feel like I should work a little bit more on using what I have. So I may get the occasional acquisition, but not too many. So, what else should I... Oh, yes. As for podcasts I've been watching, the first podcast I ever got into was on Yarn Lab Canada's channel. She did a bunch of videos about her Tour de Fleece spinning from a few years back, and I watched those while I was spinning for Tour de Fleece. And then I just got hooked on her channel because she just has such great videos and she's doing lots of exciting things. And so then I started watching her Knitting for Twins podcast, and that's been fun to watch. I'm a little behind. I mean, obviously because I'm watching her knit for her impending twins and they're already born. So, but that comes with the whole grad student busy kind of thing. But I'm really enjoying her podcast. And then she enlightened me about the world of knitting podcasts in general, because I didn't know they were a thing. So, the next podcast I discovered was actually a relatively new one. I've been watching the Hey Sister podcast. They only have 8 or 9 episodes so far, so I'm really excited that I caught them early, and it's a whole lot easier to keep up with them. And they just have a great podcast. It's so fun to see both of them interacting together, and their kids are lovely, and they're knitting so many beautiful things. And then I've been watching the Knitting Expat podcast, which is great. I love it a lot. I'm very behind, but she is knitting lots of beautiful things, and I'm learning a lot about knitting in other parts of the world, too. And then I've been watching some Hugh Loco, especially since I've been experimenting. Excuse me for a second. Oh, I think I got a bit of yarn in my eye. I've been watching Hugh Loco because I've been experimenting with dyeing yarns a bit, and she has some great tutorials about that. I also watched a few episodes of Grocery Girls because the Hey Sister podcast told me to. And so they're pretty great too. I watched a little bit of Stitched in Sweden. I really, really like watching knitters from other parts of the world because I like knitting techniques from all over the world. So it's been very informative to watch her. And I've been watching a little bit of Sticks Plus Twine, too, which has been interesting to see the male perspective in the knitting community because there usually doesn't seem like there's a lot of male knitters, but there actually are. They're just fewer and farther between. So it's really exciting to be watching one of them. So coming up, I will normally do a coming up section, but this week I have too many projects going on already, so I don't really want to be thinking about new ones. So that will be a segment for later years. So I think I've reached the end of the podcast, so hopefully I will see you again soon, and thanks for watching.